This video is all about showing you how I source products as cheaply as possible for my business. And I want to give you some tips and tricks on how you can do the same in your business. As you can see here in my warehouse right now, there's millions of pounds worth of stock in here that's been imported from multiple countries that we resell on. I think there's a real profitable game here that any budding entrepreneur can do. And if you're bringing in stuff for your company, you might be able to save yourself a lot of money just by being a little bit more frugal and a little bit more clever. Now, I want to give you a live example of exactly what I mean. One of these, which is a 4-way extension lead, nearly everyone's bought multiple of these throughout their life. They're in every business and every home in the United Kingdom. Now, if you just go on over to Amazon, you'll see one of these is about £6.49. What I want to do though is see exactly what would the manufacturer charge you to buy them direct. So I'll head on over now to Alibaba. Alibaba's like a marketplace for factories in the Far East where they make particular products. They upload them to Alibaba for the rest of the world's, say, wholesale purchasers to see what they've got for sale and buy at cost-effective prices. Now you see here, if I buy 50,000 of these, it'll only cost me $1.20. That's around 95 pence. So I can buy this for 95 pence and sell it for £6.49 on Amazon, or save myself a lot of money if I needed 50,000 of them. And you can see if you go down to 1,000 pieces, it's $1.50, and you get some economies of scale. But whatever it is, there's a huge saving, but I don't need 1,000 of them. But what do I buy a lot of? Well, around me, you're seeing lots of products, including children's arts and crafts and paints. We also bring in hundreds of thousands of teddy bears a year that we get bespokely designed to our needs. And we've been selling them for a good number of years now. But you might be thinking, I don't need children's arts and crafts, I don't need teddy bears. No, but lots of companies do distribute, and they're buying stuff like sellotape and cardboard boxes. And they're a lot of money when you consider you're not actually selling them, they're just a consumable to make the business happen. Now, this roll of branded sellotape that we buy for Rossi ice cream, it's about £2.34 a roll plus VAT. And we're not actually selling them, so it's just a cost to the business. So if I can get that cheaper, I'm going to bloody do it, aren't I? And I've managed to find how I can buy these from the Far East at only a minimum of 1,000 a time, which I'm doing more than that here in the UK, for just 30 pence. That's a £2.04 saving every time we use one of these. That's huge. When you compound that over 10 years with the amount we're buying, that's over £100,000 saving. I want to show you exactly how you can do the same. In last week's video, you saw me sourcing products in Turkey, showing you just how to do this. And then people asked me some questions on the YouTube channel. Matt Leonard said, can anyone go to these sorts of factories, or do you need significant proof of funds? See, Matt, the thing is, I'm sort of coming from a point of view with this video is if your business is already trading and you're buying stuff, this is when I think there can be a big consideration. But if you have got some cash, I do think you can import stuff and resell it wholesale or on Amazon, on eBay, or directly on your own website to turn a significant profit if you know what you're doing and you build in a niche product. If you look at all the things that I do, children's arts and crafts, teddy bears, I make slime and paints. It's a regular customer, it's a niche. I don't just go off on different tangents. I'm buying the same stuff and I'm repeating nearly all of my orders. And yes, you do need some money to get this going. But what I'm just going to reiterate the point. If you're buying stuff here in the UK and you're shelling out cash all the time, if you're shelling out £20,000 of tape, you might as well buy £5,000 worth of tape and get it direct from the Far East. Now, Flipside Freedom said, great video, James. I went to China to find suppliers. Question, how do you find good suppliers to visit? Do you use an agent to find the factories, or do you use the sites like Alibaba? Now, I do have an agent. There's a lovely guy called Ian that works with all my factories and also does this crucial part of sourcing products from the Far East, which is quality controls. You need to get your products tested, especially if you're making children's products and toys or children's clothes. You want them fire tested and EN tested. You want to make sure you've got all your labels and certificates. So I use Ian to do all the QC for me. He goes and finds factories, but I also do some of my own factory finding using Alibaba. Alibaba's great. It's like a Google search engine for finding products and services, but it's not as good as actually going out there and meeting factories and having a team out out there. But you start somewhere and you use a mixture of both in the early days, and then eventually you build your own office out there, which is much easier than you think. There's lots and lots of people in the Far East, India, Turkey, that want to do these roles, and you have to pay them a good salary, and they can really look after you and keep on finding you products. Jacob1029 also put on YouTube, I want to import stuff. How do you check quality against different manufacturers, and what do you do if stock arrives not fit for purpose? Well, it's a great question here, and we've had stock arrive that isn't fit for purpose, but if you're using good factories, they'll just give you your money back. There are some guarantees and contracts you put in place. I don't want to go into too much detail for that, but look, factories are honourable people. If they muck up, if the QC is not correct, then they will give you your money back. But how do you mitigate that? Again, you have someone out there doing the QC for you that's a third party. How do you find these people? Well, look, you can go to places like the Canton Fair, which is a big trade show out in China that happens twice a year where factories go to. You can meet agents and find agents there that will work with you. And usually they'll take about 1% of your spend to manage the whole process. You can also go to EU, which is a big market in the north of China near Shanghai, where there's literally a massive shopping centre of different suppliers and factories showing you their wares, and you'll be able to meet agents and source agents there. There's also great websites and adverts with Alibaba where you can find agents to help you as well. Same in Turkey, same in India. Now here's some things that I think you're probably thinking now about. What's the risks of me doing this? How do you fund it because you're buying in much bigger bulk? Where do you store the stuff here in the UK? What's the minimum order quantities? What does it cost to ship stuff from India, from Turkey, from China here into the UK? And what are the storage costs once it's here in the UK, and also potentially storage costs in the country of origin, and how important relationships are in driving deals forward. So let's go straight back up to the top, funding. Now, usually when you're manufacturing bespoke products for you, you have to pay a 30% deposit on order, and then when it gets shipped, another deposit, and then when it lands here in the UK to get the products released, you have to pay the balance. You could have a container with £100,000 worth of stock in it. You have to pay 30% at order. It could then take them up to 3 months to make that stuff, then 6 weeks on the water, then when it's here, and then maybe 60, 90 days to sell the product through. So it could take 9 months in total to turn cash back into cash. This is what we call the cash flow cycle. Be aware of that. You do have to have some money to make this happen. Now, there are other ways of simplifying it on minimum order quantities and funding. Rather than doing full containers, for just a little bit more money on your shipping, you can do these things called LCLs, and that's where you bring in pallets of stock. So that really makes it much more efficient for you. So if you've got really small items like you're importing extension leads or maybe iPhone cables or iPhone cases, you could bring that in pallets and share a container with someone else, which means you don't have to fund a big deposit for a whole container, making your cash flow much easier, and you can have regular pallets in, and it'll probably cost you about 15% more to do that than if you was taking a whole container, but it really does help your cash flow. That comes on to minimum order quantities. Factories want big minimum order quantities to get the best prices. My advice is, especially if you're an Amazon seller, an eBay seller, or indeed any seller in the UK, you want to get it white labeled to your own brand. So if you're going to bring in an extension lead, you want the brand, the packaging around you to be your own, so that no one can compete on price with you on the marketplaces here in the UK, or indeed on your own website. You want to be able to build your brand over time. What are container prices? Well, a container price at the height of the pandemic was about £20,000. Before the pandemic, it was about £1,500, and it's very good news now for importers because container prices have come right back down and they're at pre-pandemic levels, and it cost you about £1,500 for a 40-foot high cube. Now, on top of that, you have got your duty rates, and you might have to pay the VAT on the value of the product up front, which is another cash flow burden. As you build up, you can get agreements with HMRC to pay your VAT as you trade out. Now, storage is another big thing to factor in, because there could be container delays on your business, because maybe customs want to hold the container, maybe a ship's been caught in a storm and it comes another 4 weeks later. And I've learned this through the hard ways, this just-in-time economy that we were used to. If you're building up a big wholesale business, you're going to have to allow for that. So you need to bring in stock and hold stock so that you've always got stock fluidity, because you can then lose customers because people just go elsewhere. So you need to make sure you've got the storage. Storage is expensive here in the the United Kingdom, especially if you're in the southeast like us. And so canny importers have worked out that actually you could have a warehouse in the north of the country or out of towns and get cheaper warehouse costs, and then have a picking and packing warehouse closer to where you operate, so you can save on storage fees. And there's also options of shared warehouses. Now look, if you want to get those minimum order quantities down, if you want to get the prices down, and you want to do deals where you can get mixed containers, this is something that I do. So we might bring in ice cream cups, pots, we might bring in knives and forks and coffee cups. Rather than bringing 100,000 of each item and taking up loads of space in the UK, what I've arranged in China is to have a container and a warehouse where they will hold my stock and send it in 3-week increments, so that I can have different stuff coming in rather than just a container of coffee cups. The coffee cups take up 10%, the ice cream cups take up 10%, the stationery takes up 10%, the arts and crafts take up 10%. So it means that I have various lines coming in rather than just one line. That saves me having to hold so much stock here in the UK, and then the containers just come on clockwork. Those deals, those relationships, in my experience, are only built by getting on a plane, going out to China and negotiating all those deals. Now, the other thing that you can also do when you go and meet in China and Turkey and India is, if you go and meet people, you can usually get your deposits reduced, and you actually only pay any money out on shipment, which gives you a big 3-month cash flow improvement. So there's some top tips about importing products here into the UK, whether it's just to sell on in the normal marketplace or actually bringing in stuff which is consumables that your business use to save a lot of money, like the sellotape scenario that I spoke about earlier. If you love this video, then why not come along to one of my seminars? I run live seminars where me in person teaches you all the stuff that I know about growing businesses. You can apply to come to one of my seminars on my website at jamessinclair.net, or there's a link in the video description. And here's what you're going to love. They're cheap as chips. It's only a few £100 to come along to one of the seminars to accelerate the growth of your business. See you there.